Hey y'all, this is Suzanne Tidkemeyer. Um, if you know me, you know that I have written for Pathos for nearly 10 years. I wrote a column called No Longer Quivering about fundamentalist religion and evangelicals and the whole toxic religious thing. Now, I'm not talking about religion today. I have some other things I need to say. These are just my thoughts and opinions. They're not everybody's. Do all the YouTube things if it strikes you. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Also, please don't harass anybody that I'm going to talk about today. And let's not be rude in the comments. Don't be a jackass, because if you're a jackass, I'm just going to remove it and block you. Okay? Thank you for watching. So, today I want to talk a little bit about something that is kind of important and it's kind of a little weird too. Dina Dancing, who I absolutely adore. She's a beautiful lady who's an artist. I love to see her creations. She did a video on the on the Amber Heard Johnny Depp thing. And if you follow me on Twitter, you know I've been griping about it. I've been complaining that people are spending so much time and energy and on this that I just couldn't understand it. Well, now I do understand a little bit from watching Dena Danzig's video where she reacted to, oh gosh, I'm having a brain fart majorly. She reacted to, and I'm going to pull it up so they'll know. She was reacting to another bigger YouTuber who's been a long time. I want a male YouTuber, and I'm totally drawing a blank. I'm an idiot today. Anyway, he was saying a bunch of stuff about it, and I agreed with him on a fair amount of stuff, not everything. He made some comments that were just completely out of line and had to do with bemoaning the fact that men are not going to be taken seriously for certain things and some other really rough comments. But the thing that I pulled away from Dina's thing, I was talking to her a little bit about it in comments, is the rise of the super fan, the internet super fan. Okay, I need to talk about this a little bit because this is something I've seen all over the place. I've seen it really be a problem for some people. Okay, we all have our people we fan girl over or fan guy over. We all do. You know, if Jason Momoa was to appear down the street or on the surfboard out in Tamarindo, I would probably be fangirling. And I did sort of fangirl a little bit when oh man, I'm really having stupidity. Laird Hamilton. When Laird Hamilton showed up here and was surfing on Playa Grande, and I got there, everybody was going, Laird Hamilton, Laird Hamilton. They're all whispering. I was secretly fangirling. I was watching him surf, and I was inwardly fangirling. We all do it. But there's a big difference between fangirling, fanguying, and being a super fan, an internet super fan. Back in American Idol's heyday, I ran across this super fan phenomenon for the first time in my life. And this is after I had been kind of an annoying fan of Homicide: Life on the Streets. So I ran across these people, these women especially, these women in my age group. I'm just going to throw it out there. Okay, us boomers that were super fans of some of the American Idol guys. And I started hanging around at a place called Idol Frau, which they made fun of them for their super fan stupidity, some of their stuff. And at Vote for the Worst. Vote for the Worst was this wonderful American Idol site where all these ladies in my age group that were squealing over the perfection of some white guy with a guitar and voting over and over and over again for him. We were voting for the worst. We were voting for the worst people to keep on there just to screw with the white guy with the guitar algorithm that seemed to be prevalent on American Idol. Well, I got to see some crazy stuff. One Sunday after church, a friend of mine who ran one of the anti sites asked me if I would go take some pictures of the David Cook fans that were starting to congregate on the Charlottesville mall area. over, same sort of area where they were having all those problems a couple of years, 3 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago. So I said, sure, I don't have anything better to do. I like shopping in the mall there. It's a large area, I don't know, like 10 blocks or something, that is nicely bricked in. There are no cars, it's pedestrian only. There's all kinds of interesting little shops there. And there's a yarn shop there that I love to go to, and a number of places. So I said, sure, I don't have anything better to do. I've got a camera. So my teenage daughter and I, we went. And it was the first time I ever got to see super fans up front. And it was kind of funny because I had left church. I was just wearing a simple dress, tiny bit of makeup, tiny bit of jewelry, and I felt horribly overdressed when I hit the mall, and all the fans were really wearing a strange assortment of, I don't want to say old lady clothes. There were some that were old lady clothes. And you know the kind I'm talking about, the kind that women of a certain age used to only wear. And that's becoming rare and rare. This was a long time ago, maybe 15 or 20 years ago. So there were ladies that were dressed like they'd come straight out of Belk with their loose khaki pants, button up top, whatever. And then there were the rest that were wearing jeans and t-shirts with David Cook's face on them and stuff. And I was watching them kind of circle and circle and circle and act kind of odd. And was like going, what the heck is going on here? And I took a ton of pictures of them lining up and doing their thing. And it was pretty interesting. At the end, I told my daughter, I said, let's shop. So we went into this shop and that shop. And finally we went into, it was a shop she really liked. It was one of the youthful ones. I can't think of the name of it exactly at this moment. I want to say the Gap, but I know it wasn't the Gap. It was something not dissimilar. So we went in there, and she was looking at shirts, and I was looking at these wonderful peacock feathered hairbands I had, and I was thinking about buying one. Well, as we're standing there, David Cook comes rushing past us with his, I think it was his guitarist or his bassist, a guy by the name of Andy. And I can't remember, it's so long ago. And I smiled at him, and he smiled back and started to come forward and shake my hand. And I said, nice to see you. I'm not a fan. I am here on behalf of Idle Frau taking pictures. So there we were, taking pictures. So I talked to him for a few minutes. I did not take any pictures with him. And my daughter bought whatever way she was after, and we walked out in the street. And I had to laugh because we were very near the theater he was supposed to perform in. He'd snuck out the side door and run across the street, and there were hundreds of women milling around in front of the theater looking for him. So it was kind of a funny thing, and I saw so much bizarre behavior that day and bizarre people that I had to go back and start thinking about this and looking up the craziest behavior by fans. And the craziest I saw of what I would call super fans happened when Adam Lambert won American Idol. I got to witness online the rise of the craziest super fan. And one of my friends dubbed them sparkle cows. And I admit, I was the mean girl. I used to call them sparkle cows. So I've done quite a bit of research and reading on these people. There's always been super fans. Always, always, always. I mean, look at these women that would go to Vegas every time Elvis performed. It would sit through 200 different performances of his, even though they were exactly the same because they were so invested. I think the internet has made it easier to have that kind of parasocial relationship and be so emotionally invested in the person you feel like you know them, particularly if they're on television, they're being beamed into your living room every week, and you feel like you know them. You feel like you know them from all their interviews, from listening to their music, to watching them sing, when really you know very little about them beyond the carefully curated image that you have in your mind that you've built up. And Dina was watching this guy reacting, and he was reacting to some of the news coverage, which I had quite a laugh at some of that news coverage. It's all stuff I'd seen before because we used to live in that area. And some of the people were exhibiting the troubling behaviors of superfan, I would say. Some of them were saying things like, I tried to pass Johnny Depp a note so he'd know how much I love him and blah, blah, blah. And like, I threw flowers at him. It was just some really crazy, very emotionally enmeshed with somebody that does not know them. So they're having like a one-sided, intense parasocial relationship. And it's not really healthy, I think. I think if you get that invested in anybody or anything on the internet, you probably need to take a giant step back, take a big cleansing breath, and move on. As Jimmy Buffett's song says, breathe in, breathe out, move on. I'm a big believer in that. I'm also really nervous when people get that emotionally invested in others. And I've seen it on YouTube channels too. I've seen people become so emotionally invested into a YouTuber that they start behaving in very crazy ways. Sometimes I have had reactions to fans because of that, because I always keep that in the back of my mind. I'm always thinking about that whole crazy over enmeshment, bizarre circle of things. And I know from personal experience that it's really easy when you find somebody else who's having the same delusions and you start talking with them and the two of you start kind of ramping each other up. It's like you're taking what's going on within you and you're projecting it onto this mirror. The mirror is projecting it back. And as this thing is bouncing back and forth, it's becoming more and more insanely strong. I'm just going to say it that way. And it becomes more difficult to break that kind of delusional thinking. And it is delusional thinking if you think that you're going to hand Johnny Depp a note as he's coming out of the courthouse to contact you because you're madly in love with him. That's the height of delusion. And I would say it even kind of makes the whole bunny boiler thing, it can spiral that far. And that has always disturbed me about some things. That is one thing that I have been annoyed by the coverage of the Johnny Depp Amber Heard defamation case, is because it's kind of taken the box top off the box. And people I know that I thought were normal are acting in some very bizarre ways. But I know one thing. When that comes back next week, we have what, maybe a week or so left in the trial, week and a half. And then it will be over. And hopefully at that point, the people who are having these intense, one-sided parasocial relationships with what they perceive Johnny Depp to be will be able to step back and have a more realistic view of everything. And I understand having those kinds of thoughts. Sometimes, especially if you're stuck in a dead-end job, a dead-end relationship, your life's not going well, you use this to distract yourself. I really think that's a lot of it. It's kind of distraction in a way to get yourself through your bad times. I've always been a writer, so for me, those times just fueled me to write even more. They pushed me to write. I wrote a lot more when I was engaged in my old toxic church. I'm going to tell myself, I wrote reams of porn then. Reams and reams of the most extreme action. Het porn, not any of the other stuff. And I started writing it because I was involved with this television show. It was parasocial relationship that's one-sided. Not as strong as a lot of the ones I've seen lately. And I joined a fan fiction writing group. And while everybody else was writing slash, I started writing porn. So if my old pastor's out there, I was sitting in your church in the pew thinking about porn while you were ranting about sin from the pulpit. So yeah, I could never be fully quiverful, because at that point I'd become so broken that the writing was the only thing that gave me pleasure until I left. The writing and sometimes singing, and that was it. So if you ever find yourself getting too involved with something like that, it's always good to take a step back and think and say, hey, what is going on here with me? Is this a reaction to something else? Is there something lacking in my own life, something I need to deal with and get myself right again? It's always healthy to have those kinds of checks. And I have some girlfriends now that I could easily do that with, and including over something like these kinds of things. And there's been some times where I've started to go from fangirling to super fanning, and I'm just like, oh, no, stop, stop, back up, warning, warning, Dr. Smith, warning, the Lost in Space robot. Because it's all too easy to fall in these things and just end up with some very dark, unhealthy emotional places in your life. And I don't want that for anybody. I think about life and everybody, and I just would like to see all children loved and wanted, all mothers and wives, single women happy and contented with their lives and happy and contented with their relationships. I'd like to see all men be understanding and loving towards the women in their lives. I know that sounds like a crazy thing, but I keep hoping that we will become a society that is a happier one all the way around. And I think that one way for that to happen is we have to recognize when these things happen, they're emotionally unhealthy, and we have to deal with them. We have to be real about this. Okay, you guys, I'm going to go. As you can hear, my voice is going, but here's just a couple of things I want to say. I really want to do lives again. I'm having some problems with YouTube. I keep reaching out to YouTube and asking them why I'm having these inability to do lives. I don't know. So for now, this is it until they fix whatever it is. I test it out every couple of days. I miss you guys so badly, you just don't even know. Okay, I'm going to go.